Peace and love, family. Before we get tonight's broadcast started, I just wanted to make a few announcements. The first announcement being that the virtual tribute to Nana, Dr. Patricia Newton, will be held on October the 23rd from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So join me back here on this channel, family, on October the 23rd, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And a matter of fact, it's not this Friday, but next Friday. Okay, join me back here to pay respect, and honor and love to Nana, Dr. Patricia Newton. Family, I have a beautiful program laid out for you. I've brought on people who not only are just known in the Afrocentric or the African-centered community, but people who have actually had a working relationship with Nana. Okay, so I'm bringing on Dr. Anthony T. Browder, Professor James Small, Baba Olatunji, Baba Imhotep, and our dear brother Jabari Natur. So family, make sure that you tune in on Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Share this flyer, share this video. Let's get the word out here, about Dr. Patricia Newton's virtual tribute. And also, family, on November the 7th, okay, Anthony T. Browder, Baba Anthony T. Browder, will be hosting a physical tribute to Nana, Dr. Patricia Newton, in Baltimore. Okay, I don't have the time and the location yet, but as soon as I get the information, family, you will have the information. Okay, so just a few announcements before I get started, family. Peace and Black Power, family. Tonight we're going to have a beautiful program laid out. I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to this discussion. It's long overdue. So family, right now, take some time out to share this show. Let's get the views up. I have Dr. Waldo E. Johnson coming on to talk about the validity and impact of Black male negative stereotypes. So family, let's get these views up right now. All right. Peace and Black Power.
Let's combat and fight back with maltracks. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maat.
Peace and love, family. Welcome to another Truth to Power Talk with your sister, Dr. Maat. Thank you for joining another powerful discussion. And tonight, I have with me another powerful guest, Dr. Waldo E. Johnson Jr. How are you tonight, Doctor?
I'm well. Thank you very much, Dr. Maya. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you, Dr. Johnson. I came across your work, brother, a few months ago when I was Googling information regarding the statistics on Black fatherhood. And I see that you have done a substantial amount of work, researching the statistics and also the psychological, the emotional impact that things of this nature has on Black males. And so I want to thank you so much, Doctor, for all of your work and your research and what you're doing, for the community and what you're doing to raise social consciousness. So thank you so much, Doctor, for being here tonight. All right, family. And so take a moment out right now, family, to share this show. Okay, share this show. Take a moment out to thumb up the video, share this show. If you're watching from Facebook, make sure that you head on over to YouTube and subscribe to my show. Just Google Dr. Maat. All right, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that as soon as I go live, you will be notified. Also, family, join me on Sundays. Not only just me, family, but join myself and Sister Alima Njai for the Resurgence of the African Mind book club. Okay, we're getting ready to read another book, and I know for weeks we've been saying that we are going to announce the book, and we have yet to announce the book. So family, be sure to join us on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Resurgence of the African Mind book club. I promise you guys, we're going to announce the next book. I've been receiving emails from various people, saying, Dr. Maat, when are you going to start this book club back up? Okay, guys. And so we will be making the announcement soon. So I just want to take a moment, our family, to read the bio of our dear brother, Dr. Waldo Johnson. All right, family. All right, here it is. All right, family. So here we go. Dr. Waldo E. Johnson Jr., PhD, MSW, is an associate professor and deputy dean for curriculum at the School of Social Science Administration with affiliations at the Center for the Study of Race, Politics, and Culture and the Masuto, I hope that I'm pronouncing that correctly, Institute for Urban Innovation of the University of Chicago. His scholarship examines the impact of environment and social context on the developmental, physical, and health statuses among urban African American males. He is co-investigator for the Chicago Fathers and Sons study and the African American Social Support Effectiveness Treatment Partners Alleviating our depression studies. He was co-principal investigator for the Fathers and Sons Communication Study. His research affiliations include Scholars Network on Black Masculinity and the Center for Research on Ethnicity, Culture, and Health of the University of Michigan, the Poverty and Transitions to Adulthood Network at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, and the Working Group on Health Disparities in Men and Boys, Public Interest Doctorate, American Psychological Association. Johnson edited Social Work with African American Males, mental health, and social policies, which was published in 2010. All right. And so I, again, want to thank Dr. Johnson for being a part of the show. All right. And it seems like Doc is having some technical difficulties, but he will be in soon. So family, right now, again, please share the show. Let's get some more folks in here. And right now, what I'm getting ready to do, family, is start a watch party on Facebook. All right. To get the views up and to get the message out. To get the views up and the message out. And I see some folks are texting me actually right now saying that somebody is out. And I hope that it's not me, family. I hope that my stuff here, I hope that you hear me loud and clear. It says, hey, your live is out. Oh my gosh, how did that happen? I see Brother Rob Bourne just actually text me and said that my live is out. Brother Rob Bourne, can you hear me? Let me text you right now. Can you see me? And can you hear me? Brother Rob Bourne, thank you so much for letting me know. I'm texting you now. Thanks for letting me know. Brother Rob Bourne, can you see me? Can you hear me, brother? Okay, so I see New Black Knowledge said they can see me and they can hear me. Okay, fantastic, fantastic, family. Go ahead and share this show. I see that I'm glad that you can hear me and see me. Okay, good, Brother Rob Bourne. I'm looking at you on Facebook. Beautiful. I'm waiting for Dr. Johnson to get back here. I hope that is not something going on with my internet, which is kicking him off. I hope that that's not the case. And family, after we finish with this show, join me on Real Black Atheists on Fire. There are some brothers who believe that we are indigenous to America. It's two brothers. Actually, it's one brother who feel like we are indigenous to America. And so they watched the live stream that I had with Dr. Rick Kittles on Tuesday. And I don't know if any of you watched it, but if you didn't watch it, family, make sure that you watch the show that I had with Dr. Rick Kittles, okay, because we dismantled a lot of the myths, a lot of the lies, a lot of the theories and hypotheses that we had regarding, um, the ancestry of African people, particularly African American people. And so Dr. Rick Kittles came on. It was a beautiful show on Tuesday. So if you did not watch the show, family, go back and watch the show. Okay. And so that show, as yep. Miss Sister Melissa said, the one show they don't want black men to. I know, right? So exactly, they don't want black men to hear this, and I'm waiting for Dr. Johnson to get back in here. Exactly. And so even Sister Melissa, when I was online today promoting this show, Facebook deleted it. Look, Dr. Waldo Johnson, check this out. There's this sister in the chat room. She said that this is the show that they don't want black men to hear. Because even when I was promoting the show, Dr. Johnson, online earlier today, Facebook sent me 7 notifications because I shared this show in various groups, and I received 7 notifications that the title of this show, it goes against community standards. And even when I posted this show on YouTube in the community, under the community tab, it was removed 3 times, Dr. Johnson. And so, it's a reason why, it's definitely a reason why. Now, if we were portraying black men tonight in a negative light, the show would be fine. It would go viral, right? But when we're talking about combating the negative stereotypes, the negative images of black people, now all of a sudden it violates community standards. All of a sudden it's being removed from the community tab. So family, right now, please share this show. Again, your sister Dr. Maat tried to share it a zillion times and I got kicked out from Facebook. Dr. Waldo Johnson, his internet is getting kicked out. And so I know we probably sound like conspiracy theories right now, but I'm telling you, family, we're keeping it real with you. In Baltimore, we say we keep it a buck with you, that this is really happening. Like his internet literally went out like 6 or 7 times. And Dr. Johnson, does this usually happen to you?
Not frequently. I mean, in the middle of this pandemic, all of the internet is weak, but this is even a record for me today.
Exactly. And it's been a record for me. So like Sister Melissa said, this is the one show they don't want the brothers to hear. They don't want the sisters to hear. They don't want the society to hear this one. So families, I've reached out to Dr. Johnson probably a few months ago. He and I have been coordinating this show. And I came across Dr. Johnson's work that he's published it's online and he's published in journals. But I came across his work because I was Googling the statistics on Black fatherhood, because there was a statistic that came out a few years back that said, 78% of and I appreciate New Black knowledge. You said, I got you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much, brother. Thank you so much. And shout out to New Black Knowledge. I know that you all just reached 10,000 subscribers. So Congratulations, NBK. And guys, if you haven't subscribed to NBK channel, please be sure to subscribe to NBK's channel. I'm telling you, their channel, they disseminate a lot of good and accurate information for the people. I'm a big fan of NBK. And a matter of fact, NBK, you need to send me a sweatshirt so that I can start rocking your sweatshirt. But anyway, I reached out to Dr. Johnson because I was Googling data on Black fatherhood, because there was an alarming statistic that dropped a few years back that said 78% of Black children are born to single mothers. And so people were in the uproar, Dr. Johnson. So what do you mean? Black men aren't in their children's lives. And, so Black men, and for years we've been hearing, just the image on television that Black men they're deadbeat dads, they're promiscuous, they're criminals. And so we've been seeing this imagery for quite some time, Dr. Johnson, and it's actually been normalized, to see Black men portrayed in a negative light. And so when I came across your work, I said, I got to reach out to Dr. Waldo Johnson to get him on this platform, because I know your work deals with that. And you also deal with the psychological and emotional impact that this has on Black men. So Dr. Waldo Johnson, can you address that that statistic that we all saw. It was all over social media. It was all over the news. That 78% of Black children are born to single mothers. So you have the world thinking that Black men don't take care of their children. Black men are just deadbeat dads. So can you address that statistic? And then after you address the statistic, Dr. Johnson, can you address the psychological impact or emotional impact that has on Black males?
Okay. So, first of all, we want to think about the distinction between family structures and involvement, because we have historically, and particularly when we talk about Black families, we've made certain assumptions about their family structure. And when I talk about family structure, first of all, in terms of the relationship statuses, whether they are married couples living in the same household versus whether they are engaged in some form of what we might call cohabitation, or whether they are actually separated. And so when we think about the distinctions between those types of family structures versus when we think about the ways in which involvement in families occur, not only for fathers, but for mothers as well. But because we're focused on fathers, that's what we'll talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes a really important point for us to think about why it is that there are these misconceptions, in some instances, mistruths, ways in which data is analyzed to suggest that simply because children may be born outside of wedlock, it automatically assumes that those children have no involvement with their parents. And that is where much of my work has focused on, because while it is the case that African American children there's a high rate of African American children who are born to couples who are unmarried. That does not suggest, when we look at the data, how many of those children have no involvement with their. And in fact, the evidence, the national evidence, suggests that even when children are born out of wedlock, African American children tend to have higher rates of involvement with their fathers than do white and Latino families.
Hold on, Doc. I gotta do this. Hold on. Woo! So hold on, Doc. You said that. I just want to make sure that I heard you correctly. So you said that it's actually data out there that substantiates that Black males have a higher rate of involvement with their children than their white and Latino people, like white and Latino counterparts. Did I hear you correctly, Doctor?
Right. In terms of when we look at fathers who are unmarried to the mothers of the children. So the first thing for us to recognize is that African American families are not the only families where children are born either out of wedlock or they're in families where the mothers and fathers are no longer together. We see this across all races. However, what we do see that is different among African Americans, that even when we consider children who are born to non-resident fathers, and when I say non-resident fathers, that simply means that they do not live in the household with their children. When we look at this across race, when we think about white non-resident fathers, Black non-resident fathers, Latinx or Latino non-resident fathers, and other groups where they're non-resident fathers, we find that African American non-resident fathers have a higher rate of involvement with their children. They're much more likely than the other groups to spend time with their kids, even in instances where mother and father may not have very good relationships, and there may not be, say, for example, visitation orders in place where fathers automatically get time. They often, for example, and this may be very familiar to some of the listeners this evening, that it is not uncommon that sometimes when fathers who do not live in the household with their kids, but their kids visit his mother or their paternal grandmothers, that often provides an opportunity for those dads to have interaction and involvement with their children. It is also the case that even that in some instances where their children may visit other paternal relatives, say, for example, his sister, um, his grandmother, or some other member of his family, those opportunities.
I think, family, if you could tell me, I think is either he went out or I went out. So in the chat room, if you could tell me, family, did he go out or did I go out? Because he was going in. And there you go, Doctor. Dr. Johnson,
Okay,
can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can
Yes,
hear
sir.
you.
So please continue. You were saying
Yes,
that
I
when
was
the
just
child
saying.
goes. Mhm.
Right. So what I'm saying is that we cannot necessarily assume that resident status defines involvement. And that is one of the misconceptions that we see in a lot of the earlier research that focused on black families and more specifically black fathers. The assumption was made the father does not live in the household, then that must mean that the father is not involved. But what we know from research now, not only the research that I do, but other scholars who study black families and particularly black fathers, they are very much um, their scholarship also supports the notion that residence alone does not define involvement.
Oh, beautiful, Doc. I mean, and so let me ask you a question, Doc. What is the purpose of them portraying, black men as deadbeat dads? Like, what is the purpose behind this? I mean, I know a lot of us. I mean, we have our theories, but what do you think the purpose is for I don't know, putting out these myths or lies regarding black fatherhood? What are your thoughts on that? Why? What's the purpose?
Well, I mean, I think we cannot ignore the fact that not just black fathers, but black people, African Americans, have long been the criticized and racially stereotyped in a lot of different ways. Not only with respect to their involvement in families, we're often described and characterized as being lazy, as being uneducated. So there are lots of different stereotypes out there that cause us to sometimes question, or that should cause us, in many instances, to question the way in which African Americans are often being characterized. But but also keep in mind that beyond the fact that there are the
I'm telling you, family. I didn't. I'm telling you, family. I want to say that this is the internet and things just happen, but even just promoting this show, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, it was just a headache just promoting this show. My post got taken down a few times on YouTube and on Facebook. So I'm telling you, I feel like as long as you are portraying black men in a negative light, you don't have any problems. But as soon as you start speaking truth to power, and that's the name of my talk show, Truth to Power, then the internet goes out, your posts get taken down, you're reported on the community tab. And so, I mean, he's really, dismantling a lot of the myths. So it looks like he decided to leave out and come back in. Oh, here he is. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, Doc, I have you back. We're gonna get through this tonight. We're gonna get
okay,
through this tonight. We're gonna
right,
get through this, Doc. Go
we're
ahead,
going
Dr.
to push
Johnson.
forward. Yes. So I was just summing up to say that it's important for us to understand the ways in which we've studied families up for a long time. Uh, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we didn't even conduct interviews with fathers because we didn't feel like we could get fathers to participate in many of these interviews. So a lot of these stereotypes are not only racially motivated, some of them are also about gender and the ways in which people have kind of stereotyped along gender lines the degree to which fathers are involved. And so even the recognition, say in the last 25 years or so, that you can conduct studies and actually engage fathers in ways where they are interested and will respond to questions about their involvement, can talk, talk on many different levels in terms of how they're involved in their children's lives, not only in terms of their financial contributions, but the way they're involved in the psychological and the emotional development of their children, the way they protect their children, whether they are small kids or adults. I just finished a study where we were looking at the ways in which Black fathers protect their sons, their adolescent sons, from violence involvement and victimization. So there are just a multitude of ways in which we can examine the relationship between fathers and their children. And what we know now, in comparison to some of the stereotypes that are out there, is that Black fathers are no different from fathers in general in terms of often their commitments to their children.
Mm.
When we think about the ways in which they can actively be involved, and for so many people, they think about financial involvement, the ways in which African Americans, and particularly Black men, have been disadvantaged in the labor market could cause men to think that they have nothing to contribute to their children if they only see themselves as financial providers.
Hold on, Doc. I got it. Hold on. That was. Woo! Go ahead, Doc. Continue, please.
But if we recognize that while children need financial support, but they need a variety of other things as well, then there we can begin to kind of think about the ways that might be non-financial contributions that fathers can make and often do make, even in instances when they are unable to provide, financially. Uh, Black men and the Black community in general has been disadvantaged economically in terms of the kinds of opportunities that have been available to allow them to support themselves, to support their families, to support their communities. And so it becomes really important for fathers and to recognize that their value and contributions to their children should not be viewed solely in economic terms.
That's a fact. That's a fact, Doc. I'm sitting here thinking about males who, like you said, they may not be able to provide financially, but they give the quality time, the emotional support, the mental support, and so I agree 100% with you that you can't judge it strictly by economical means. So I agree 100% with you. And I also agree with, I'm looking in the chat room, Trigger Man, I be more. He said there's a major campaign against Black males right now. And brother, I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. Go ahead and continue, Dr. Johnson. I'm listening.
Okay. So with that, recognizing that it has only been, say, in the last 25 to 30 years that we've even begun to collect data from fathers themselves to better understand how they see themselves as fathers, the dimensions of their involvement, whether it's solely instrumental or financial, or whether they think about themselves in terms of like providing care, to help with the social development of their children. We now know that we can uh, get information from fathers that help us to better understand the multiple ways in which men may be seeing themselves as fathers. Um, and one of the things we've also come to recognize, in the research that I conduct, as well as research of others, that it becomes really important when fathers have children that early on they be able to sustain their involvement with their children. You know, even in instances where the relationship between mom and dad may dissolve, they may no longer have a romantic relationship or a couple relationship, but they are forever linked as parents. And for fathers to maintain their involvement with their children becomes really important, even in instances where there may be some struggle in terms of even being able to have visitation with the children. But what we've learned that over time, if these bonds are developed and they are strengthened, even if fathers are unable to provide presently, if later in life they're able to support their children financially, then they're much more likely to engage with them.
Absolutely.
They're much more likely to engage with them. So, in contrast to some of the policies that we've had and that particularly affect low income fathers, of which African American fathers are a sizable proportion, those policies often essentially suggest that if men can't provide financially, then in so many ways they don't deserve to be involved with their kids.
Mm.
And so things like child support often kind of serve as these barriers. And I want to be really clear about
Be
this.
clear, be clear, doctor.
I fully recognize the importance of fathers being able to provide financially for their kids. And providing child support is really important because in many instances, these children are born to low income parents. So when fathers can't provide, that doesn't mean that mothers automatically have the money to provide. So they need that support. But in instances where fathers are really unable to do so because for example, they may have mental health problems that affect their ability to sustain themselves in the labor force. They may not have the kinds of skills that are necessarily to get the kinds of jobs that will sustain them in the labor force. When we think about all of the barriers that men and women, black and white and otherwise, face that might keep low income families outside of the labor market, we don't want those things to be tied to deciding they are deserving or undeserving of being involved with their children simply because they may not live in the same household. Because couples that do not live in the same household are not only couples that do not live in the same household because they are unmarried. We have parents also who do not live in the same household because they're divorced. And the policies that we have governing divorced couples look very different from the kinds of policies that often guide the way in which we allow for family involvement and formation among families where children are born outside of marriage, or of what some would refer to as out of wedlock.
Mhm. Absolutely. I just want to take a moment out. I'm looking in the chat room. I want to acknowledge the Hoppy Film family. If you haven't purchased the Hoppy Film, head on over to hoppyfilm.com. Actually, they dropped a documentary doc about 2 or 3 months, about 2 months ago, maybe back in, I think, August. And it was beautiful where they talked about economics and what economics truly means, to African people. I actually had like a watch party in my home with my family, and I sent Brother Taki and the sister. I'm forgetting her name right now. The sister that works real, she's real tight with him. But I had a watch party in my home, and I sent them pictures and things of that nature. So, family, I just want to salute the Happy Film in the building. Also, my French speaking brothers and sisters are in the building from the UK and from France. I appreciate you tuning in tonight. I see that there's a brother or a sister from Haiti joining us tonight, and so I definitely want to welcome you to the show. But Dr. Johnson, how does this stereotype, of black men being deadbeats, and even other stereotypes like black men being promiscuous, black men being criminals, because the black criminal images, as Dr. Amos Wilson stated, is worth billions of dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, they get billions of dollars from depicting black men as criminals. They also, family, and you might not want to hear this, but they also get billions of dollars from portraying black people as victims. I mean, this is money here. This is money. Okay. And so I just want to ask you, Dr. Johnson, how do these negative stereotypes, portraying black men as deadbeat dads, as, they're just promiscuous, they don't take care of their children, they're criminals. How do these stereotypes psychologically and emotionally impact black males? And then we'll move on to black females, and then we'll move on to the social consciousness. But I want you to address, first and foremost, how do you think these stereotypes impact black males specifically?
Well, I think it's interesting for us to consider how the impact of these negative images and characterizations have. I mean, our sense of self is not totally defined by often how we see ourselves, but there are ways in which those around us can impact. And so, if in fact I'm someone who has a very strong.
Oh, he went out again. Hopefully, I hope that it unfreezes or he leaves. Oh, there you go, Dr. Johnson. Go ahead and continue.
There may be ways in which I may not be as affected by this, but we also have to think about not only the ways in which images of Black people are negatively portrayed by people outside of our community, but we also have to be honest about the ways in which we also contribute to some of those negative stereotypes, as Black people, in terms of the when we promote lots of kind of media images that depict us in rather negative ways, that also contributes to some of the problems that maybe some young men may be experiencing. The degree to which these young men, going back to this whole notion about involvement, the degree to which these young men may have positive role models around them to help them to see themselves in ways that look counter to what the messages in media, irrespective of the sources of those messages, whether those messages are coming from outside of our community or whether they are coming from inside of the community. These young men need people at all stages, not only as boys, not only as adolescents, but also sometimes as young adults and middle age, that they need people who can serve as role models for them to show them alternate ways of seeing themselves and thinking about themselves. And to the extent that those things don't exist, that can also potentially contribute to these negative stereotypes. Because my thinking about this is there will always be potentially distractions out there that may characterize us in ways that are unflattering and untrue. But one of the big challenges is, do we buy into those things? And
Bingo.
right, do we buy into those things? And if we do, what can we do to provide counter narratives to help people to kind of think about themselves in ways that are much more positive, much more affirming, allow them to seek positive development as youth, as young adults, as adolescents, and so it's a constant battle. It's a battle in terms of the ways in which we might be viewed in the larger political landscape and social landscape of the nation. But we also have got to be honest about the ways in which, even in our own community, we do not affirm ourselves sometimes, and we provide negative stereotypes for our young people. And so finding ways to counter those negative stereotypes, to counter those negative images, become real important in terms of helping young men to see themselves in rather positive ways.
Hold on, Doc. Hold on. I got to give it up for you. Hold on. Woo! I mean, Doc, you just said a whole lot. I was having a conversation with a sister online, and she said, well, Dr. Maat, what do we do? What do we do when we're up against, media that is constantly propagating negative images of us? I said, well, sis, the first and foremost, we have to withdraw support from those medias, so if they're propagating a false narrative, about Black men, women, and children, we had to turn off the television or stop going to that website or stop visiting that social media platform, and then we have to build and support our own media, Doc, that will, like you said, counter the negative, the negative, or the falsehoods that are being spread about Black men, women, and children. I want to agree with New Black Order. New Black Order, NBK, just stated in the chat that it's been that way since we got here. Yeah. Their objective is to dehumanize us, to exploit us, because they don't want us to be free.
No,
I had to say that I agree with my brother MBK 100%. I think that they mischaracterize Black people on purpose in order to justify the exploitation of Black people. So if you depict Black men as criminals, as deadbeats, as thank you, honey. If you put this is my son too, by the way. Come in here and say hi, Jalen. I know you looking. He handed me some water.
Hello, everybody.
He brought me some water, and so
that's very kind.
Thank you, Puda. All right, thank you. So, thank you, honey. So, when you mischaracterize Black people the way you do, so when you take Black men and you say that they're deadbeats or they're criminals and they're promiscuous people, then no one cares what happens to them. So when you show, a situation where, the police has murdered, a Black man, and I could talk about the sisters, but like you said earlier, Dr. Johnson, we're talking about Black men tonight. So I'm not going to get into those sisters, because I could also talk about, what's happening with the sisters. But when you have put out those images of Black men, and so when things happen to Black men, no one cares. Right. It's like, well, he must have done something, because we know that Black men are criminals. In the mind, they've programmed people to believe that Black men are criminals, Black men are promiscuous, Black men are deadbeats. So when something happens to Black men, it's like, oh, he must have deserved it. We start victim shaming, because in our minds, he must have deserved it because of all of the negative portrayals and depictions of Black men. And Dr. Johnson, I actually got accused a while ago of people online. They attacked me. They said, Dr. Maat, you're so biased. Oh my gosh, you always bat for the men. You're always caping for the men. And so, my retort to those people was that, I have sons.
That's right.
And then I have a father. I have sons. I have uncles. I have male cousins. And so when people speak negatively about Black men, I feel some type of way. I take offense to that, because I love my father. I love my sons. I love my uncles. I love the males in my family. And so when I see these negative portrayals of Black males, Dr. Johnson, I get extremely offended. Okay. And I get offended because I love the men in my family and they're nothing like the way they're being portrayed on the media.
Right.
So Doc, I want to ask you another question. How do you think this impacts? How do you think this psychologically and emotionally impacts Black women? Now, I just kind of vented and talked about how I feel, but as a whole, how do you think that seeing our men depicted in such a way, how do you think that that impacts the psyche of Black women? Because now you have sisters, Dr. Johnson, who are saying things like Black men are deadbeats. They don't take care of their children. They're this, they're that. So let's get into that. How does that impact the psyche of Black women? And then how does that impact the relationship between Black men and Black women, Dr. Johnson?
Okay, so I'm going to um, be cautious in my kind of response with this, because when we get into kind of talking deeply about relationships, that's not an area of scholarship that I'm as versed in. But what I will say is that I find that many Black women, in terms of their perspectives and their feelings about Black males in general, mirror what you've shared with us about your own feelings and perceptions. Now, I think that for many Black women, they are Black men's most fiercest advocates. That they will often respond just as you say you do when someone makes an unfair charge against Black males in general. Um, and so and I think that is something historical that we often don't give a lot of credit to Black women in terms of the important roles they have played in terms of supporting Black men, and in a way that complements the ways in which Black men may be trying to support Black women. Um, but there are ways in which I think Black women are uniquely affected by these negative stereotypes. Perhaps there are those among us, as you point out, who may also buy into some of these notions. There, and particularly for those that may have had some bad experiences, with some brothers, they might come to the conclusion that I don't want to deal with Black men anymore because it's very hard to find a good Black man. But we, we also have to recognize that there have been a number of forces that have shaped the pool of Black men that might even be available for relationships.
Mm.
Incarceration has really impacted the Black community in really devastating ways. And although now we are beginning to see an increase in a rise in the number of Black women who are being incarcerated and spending time in jail and prisons, this has been a long-standing problem for Black men, and as a result, the way in which Black men have historically not only been um, disproportionately represented among the prison and jail population, but when they come out, the opportunity structure that allows them to reintegrate back in society has been sorely places them at a sorely disadvantaged place. And so now that also impact Black women, because to the extent that Black women may be looking for partners in marriage and in parenthood, the stuff that can contribute and bring not only financial resources but also emotional support and a variety of other things, many of these men may have had limited opportunity to engage in the labor force, depending on how long they've spent with after long terms of incarceration. Many of them also are in these settings without sufficient mental health and physical health services that they need. So even if they are getting some support for these problems in prison or in jail, once they exit, those services don't necessarily follow them into um, as they return home. And so there are a lot of different challenges that may very well be the effects of having long periods of incarceration or institutionalization that may befall a number of Black men, that may cause many Black women to kind of feel like it is very difficult to find someone with whom you can build a life. And so as we are beginning to think more and more about decarceration and lowering the rates of people who are in prison, because in the United States, we absolutely incarcerate too many people. But what we've got to do, even as we are trying to lower these numbers of people going into jails, we
Oh man, Dr. Johnson, don't go.
and
He
we've also got to think about when they return home. Because if we don't continue to provide those services, that's where we begin to see the high rates of recidivism, people returning back to jail in relatively short periods of time after they've been released, because they come out and there are no resources and no supports available to them. You know, if we think, and again, policies that we've had in the past, contribute to some of these problems. So, for example, there used
Dr. Johnson, he was on a roll, family. He was on a roll. He might leave out and come back in. So I think it's his internet that's going in and out. But he's on a roll right now. Oh, there you go,
okay.
Dr. Johnson.
So I
All
was
right.
saying, we've had, say, for example, public housing policy that made it almost impossible for men returning from prison to reunite with their families, because if their families lived in public housing and there were laws to say that people who had criminal records cannot be on the property. Well,
That's right.
that's one of the ways in which involvement is curtailed, because now you have a policy that says he can't be there. And so the mothers of the children may have to make a decision between, do I try to promote him being here and run the risk of losing my lease?
Yep.
Or, or do I follow the rules? But in the long run, what that may potentially do is create a schism between my children and their father. You know, even in instances where these men may return back to their family of origin, meaning their own mothers and fathers and stuff. If those parents are in public housing, then we sometimes see that those parents are put in a bind to decide, do I support my child, or do I have to kind of think about, if I allow this child to come back, then I run the risk of being viewed as that I'm not compliant with the lease. And that can be reason for putting me out. And then suddenly you have older people who are homeless. And
Mm.
so we have to think about policies that in many instances may that impact these men in particular kinds of ways that might make them seem undesirable. We have to think
Mm.
about some of the experiences that they have, growing up, in terms of trying to make decisions about which way they will go. Because we have to recognize that all of the young Black males that we see on a daily basis are not criminals. They're, they're not, um,
Not at all. Not at all.
Right. They absolutely are not, and we have to be as Black people, and but as Americans in general, we have to be comfortable with ourselves to move beyond judging people by their facades, by by what they're wearing and how they look in ways that cause us to decide they're either worthy or unworthy. And when we move beyond that, then that helps us to begin to kind of understand that in so many of these experiences that these young men are having every day, they could either go down the right path or the wrong path. There's many different opportunities to go either way. And sometimes going down the wrong path, there may appear to be more opportunities to do that than there may be doing the right thing. And so helping them to kind of make the right decisions while they're still young, while they're still trying to figure things out, becomes really important, because that can be the difference between thinking about having another young brother who can be viewed in ways that he's seen as an asset, not only to his family, but to his community, to the neighborhood he lives in, the block he's on, if we think about it in rather granular ways, all the way down to the household he's living in.
Mm. Hold up, Doc. I mean, I gotta give you one more. I gotta give you another bomb, Doc. I mean, what you just said was just, oh my goodness, Doc. Oh my goodness, Doc. Beautiful. I mean, what you're saying is, I mean, it's dead on. I mean, it's dead on point. I mean, you're on point, Doctor Johnson, and oh my gosh, I just, I mean, I mean, we even talked about how to fix it. Saying that we just withdraw support. I even said to the sister earlier today that there needs to be an outcry. Whenever our men, women, and children are portrayed in a negative light. But
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson, you just hit the hammer on a nail with a lot of things. You said so much. You said so much. I mean, you dropped so many seeds for, so much food for thought tonight, and so I do appreciate it. I'm going to take some questions from the chat. I know New Black Order asked earlier if child support, and I know I only have about 5 more minutes left with you. But New Black Order earlier asked if child support, and I'm going to paraphrase what he said. He asked if child support deters, I guess, Black men for being. Here it is. Does child support make fathers not want to be involved? So, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that child support makes fathers not want to be involved?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I could think about that as being a deterrent for involvement for some fathers, but not necessarily the case for others. I think that fathers often feel that if they're paying child support, they want to know that, first of all, that those payments are going to support their children. I mean, now with the TANF program that was created as a result of the 1996 welfare reform law, mothers were suddenly required that if they had children and the children were born out of wedlock, they had to identify who the father of those children.
Oh, Dr. Johnson. Hopefully he comes right back, guys. We only have about 5 minutes left. 5 minutes left. So hopefully he gets back on. There we go, Doc. There you go.
So in that, and what happened in many states, people, those states often use the money that men paid in child support to reimburse the state for the TANF benefits that the mothers were given. And fathers in general if they give money, they want the money to go to the kids, to the children.
Absolutely.
Right. And so having policies like that can be real deterrent. So to the point that was raised, yes, that can be a real disincentive for fathers to give because they feel like I'm giving money, but the money is not going to my child. It's going somewhere else. But you know, another problem with child support, and I talked about incarceration a few minutes ago. When if you're paying child support at any time when your salary changes, if you lose a job and you get another job, but you're making less money than you were making in the previous job, you fathers have the right to go into court and to get their child support orders adjusted because child support is ideally a percentage of the money that you're paying to provide support for the kid based on the number of kids that you have. But what we find that it is less likely for many of these low-income Black fathers to go into court and to get their child support orders adjusted. I mean, in the same way that if your income goes down, you should pay less. If your
If your income goes up, you should pay more. I know what you're saying, Doc. Go ahead. I know that you broke up a little bit again, but hopefully he goes out and then come back in. Ah, yeah, I think he's want to go out and come back in this time because it's not clicking in. All right. I was going to ask him also. I see that there's a question from brother Shango 67. Men are not taught how, it says how to keep giving support, how to give support, emotional, financial, when the relationship end. I'm trying to look to see if there was any other questions asked before we close the show. So he left out. So he'll be back in. You know what, brother Sar? Brother Sar says, anyone with the last name Johnson who is Black is a genius. You know what?
He's right.
You know, so MBK said, I don't think we think as a community. He said we don't see ourselves as being part of a community. And brother Shesmo says, I think the ultimate problem is contraption, discipline, and promiscuity. Melissa said, Dr. John Henry Clark said, there can't be conflict between Black men and women. One half can't be free if the other half of the mind is in conflict. Oh, go ahead, Sister Melissa.
That's right.
Ashe. All right, so Dr. Johnson, we're going to head on out of here, Doctor. I just wanted to know if you had any closing words for the listening audience. I know that we had a lot of hiccups here tonight, and
but
I know, but
yeah,
we persevere. We worked through it, Doc, so yeah, I'm so happy. You got to come back on, Doc, you know, at a later date so we can continue this discussion. This is a discussion that is needed. You know, it is needed. Yeah, we see it a lot. We hear it a lot, but it's nothing like having programs that combat, you know, the false narratives, you know, regarding our people. And so we got to have more shows like this because ultimately, you know, the media does, whether people want to admit or not, it does control or does shape, you know, the mind and, you know, and the perceptions of people. And so it's always important to have shows like this where we're countering, you know, the false negative or the falsehoods regarding, you know, Black people. And so, you know, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Dr. Waldo Johnson, for coming on. Hold on, guys. Let me give it up one more time for Dr. Johnson. Doc, I do appreciate you. So let me give it up one more time.
It was a pleasure to be here with you and your audience.
Yes, Doc. Yes. And people in the chat.
To be here with you and the audience. And I want to thank you for the important work that you're doing.
I appreciate it, Doc.
As a part of the positive media.
That's right.
That is out here countering the false narratives and the conspiracies that might be working to the disadvantage of all people, but particularly our Black brothers and sisters. Thank you
Abs-
very much, Dr. Maat.
No problem, Dr. Johnson. And I tell people all the time, I'm not a YouTuber. I am not a YouTuber. But what I found, Dr. Johnson, and I teach over at Morgan
Yes.
State University School of Engineering. And what I found out, Doc, is that our students, they go to YouTube for everything. I mean, I've been teaching at Morgan for about 3 years now. And they literally go to YouTube for everything. I mean, I have students emailing me about engineering, concepts and principles. And then some of them are emailing me, "Hey, Doc, I watched this video about the Democrats or the politics, or I saw this video from some people I don't even want to mention, but then, this person and that person. What are your thoughts?" And I'm like, wow, people really go to YouTube. They look to YouTube as a source for information. So then I said to myself, I said, well, Doc, you've been on, different platforms here and there. Just start building your own platform and disseminating, accurate, information, to the people. So now I use YouTube as a medium, to have these sorts of discussions, because I realized that people really, look to YouTube as a tool, as a source for information. So I don't consider myself a YouTuber, family, by far. And look, NBK said, "Damn it, the internet." I know. I think he went out. Again. But yeah, family. I don't look at myself as a YouTuber. I'm just an educator, who uses YouTube as a medium, as a conduit, as you will. And it looks like he left back out, and he'll be coming back in. But I look to YouTube as a medium or as a conduit. Oh, here he is. Doc, I was just saying that, just telling people who are listening that, I'm not a YouTuber at all. I don't, this is not my thing. But what I realized is that people look to YouTube as a source for information. And
Yeah.
so, as an educator, I use YouTube as a medium, as a conduit, as you will, to disseminate information and to combat disinformation, malinformation, and misinformation. And so that's what I was, conveying to the crowd while the internet went out. And I agree with you, Bakari, that YouTube, it says YouTube University has many advantages. It says, where can I find? So New Black Knowledge asked, where can we find the research that you did regarding, Black fatherhood?
So in a variety of platforms, as you pointed out, some of them are publications, and there are links to some of those. If you go to my page at the University of Chicago in the School of Social Service Administration, there are some links, and some of the, you'll also find, if you go on the web, presentations that I've made at conferences, and sometimes media opportunities like the one we're doing now. So you can find it in a variety of locations.
Beautiful. And Doc, if you when we get off, maybe tomorrow, I know the weekend is here, so I know you might want to relax. I'm gonna be working all weekend. I have a lot of grading to do. Midterms are coming up next week, but so I'll be working through the weekend. But when you get some time, Dr. Johnson, if you could send me, some links or something, and what I'll do is in the description box underneath this video, I'll post some links so that people could check out your work.
Oh, I'll work on getting some to you.
Okay. I appreciate it, Dr. Johnson. So thank you so much, family, for tuning in. Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson, for your time, your energy, and your work. Doc, you have to come back again, sir, and let's continue this conversation. Continue the conversation. So I appreciate
joining you again.
Absolutely. I appreciate you so much, Doc. Let's keep in touch with one another.
Okay.
All righty. Peace and power, Doc.
All right.
Let's combat and fight back with maltracks. The war of the minds, they want control of the masses. And Common Core, they dumb us down in the classes. Without knowledge, we can't gain access. Build with the elders, take notes and write classes. We keep whining on the block, how it's gonna stop? Let's start supporting our own, make their supply drop. We buy stocks, then we buy blocks. Cause we know the truth and we tuned in to Dr. Maat.